This is the country where bin Laden may hide,
There's no question there is a risk of kidnapping.
where extremists are groomed,
This is the belly of the beast.
where East does not meet West.
Life is very raw in Pakistan.
Except this is Pakistan too.
Boom.
Will the real Pakistan show its face? This is one of those places where a shooter could get shot.
National Geographic magazine.
So who does National Geographic call? Photojournalist Ed Cashy has spent 3 decades looking for trouble.
Photography is absolutely a tool for me for creating change in the world. I choose the places I go not because I like them, it's because I care about what's going on there. Unfortunately, the themes that I'm interested in take me to places that are kind of rough. And I would say Pakistan is one of those places. You leave your hotel, you get onto the streets, and you never know what you're gonna see. Sometimes it's disturbing, and sometimes it's very rough, and it's aggressive, and life is very raw in Pakistan.
And misunderstood.
Since 9/11, most of the media dwells on the story of Pakistan vis-a-vis militants, Taliban, Al-Qaeda, war, death, bombings. But, you know, the truth is, it's a small piece of what happens. I want to humanize people. I want to humanize Pakistan. I also want people to understand that there are very serious issues that affect us as well.
To capture the true face of Pakistan, Ed enters its soul.
The Punjab is the heartland of Pakistan. It's the power base, it's the cultural base, it's the economic heartland.
Ed has just 4 weeks to make a portrait of a region nearly the size of Britain. It means long days, short nights, dead ends, and constant travel, starting in Punjab's capital, Lahore. Nice view, but Ed prefers close-ups.
I push when I work. I push really hard. When we got to Lahore, we hit the ground running. This is Kashti, which is the name of Punjabi wrestling. So it's a natural for the story. It's important to me to get close because I want to get the grit and the sweat. In general, with all my work, I like to get close. I like intimacy.
This is the struggle Ed's looking for, between the earthy side of Pakistan and the intolerant. The Taliban has rules about fun, especially half-naked.
Shows one of the ways that people here enjoy life, and there's betting and music. So it's exactly the sort of thing that the militants do not like and they want to snuff out. Waiting for them to be flipped right onto me.
Islam is the main faith here. 96% are Muslim. Most holidays are holy days, a time to honor prophets and martyrs.
We're at a Shiite commemoration for the suffering of Prophet Ali.
For more than 1,000 years, Shiites have taken pains to show their devotion to their martyred prophet.
So the really devout Shia, including kids as young as 7 years old, would beat themselves with these metal chains with daggers at the end. And then others would come and beat their chests until it was just black and blue even, to empathize with the pain that Imam Ali went through on the day of his death.
Ancient zeal, modern garb, but denim and devotion seem to mix.
The crush of people, the musty odor, the mix of hot bodies crowded into narrow alleyways, the smell of blood. It was just sort of an overwhelming, toxic mix. It's almost like an animal energy that feels like it could spin out of control at any second. God, it's just wild. The wounds almost look like Islamic scripture out of the Quran. It's bizarre. I never thought about that before. I like the emotion of this. Well, that's good, with this arm raised and the blade. It almost looks like paint. This one is a strong image. I have shot over 2,000 pictures in my first 2 days in the field on this story, which is ridiculous. That's almost a week's worth of production for my normal shooting patterns. But there's always that feeling of like, no matter how good it looks now, don't stop. You think it's good, but just wait.
Lahore's landmark, the Badshahi Mosque. Once one of the biggest mosques in the world, still one of the biggest in Pakistan.
I work light in terms of camera equipment. I mostly just work with a fanny pack with my flash cards, a strobe, and I usually, like 90% of the time, I work with one camera. With a very simple, concise set of gear, I can do more than I've ever been able to do. And I like it that way because also physically, I like to be unencumbered when I'm working. There is a kind of hunter-like quality. It's like what it must be like to be a hawk or an eagle when they're on the hunt, you know, and all their senses are alive, and it's almost like you have 360-degree vision, and you're hearing things, and you're sensing movement all around.
The mosque is familiar ground. Ed's photographed it 3 times in 10 years. But in such a timeless place, how do you find a fresh angle?
You know, already the editorial wheels are turning in my head. What's the story? What's the story? There is no story. Now I'm just thinking, what am I missing? What am I not doing? And I see another picture. What I noticed was that there are armed security guards and paramilitary at the entrance to the mosque, and this is something that even when I was here 4 years ago did not exist. And they're frisking people, checking their bags, looking for potential suicide bombers. And so I thought, wow, this is an opportunity to not only make a graphic, powerful image, but also an image that speaks to the current moment we're in here in the Punjab.
Lahore is where you find the Pakistan you seldom see.
I've been to parties where I think I'm in Soho in New York with, you know, hip young artists drinking and hanging out. So Lahore offers this rich variety of tradition and modernity, and a modernity you do not expect from Pakistan. We're at a trendy restaurant in Lahore called Gunsmoke. All the waiters are in 10-gallon hats, cowboy boots, and belt buckles. And when they bring the drinks on the table, they slam it down on the table. It's a wonderful way to show how Pakistan is different than what we think, and however kitschy or cliche one might think this is, it does reflect a form of modernization. But it's for the elite. The average Punjabi and probably cannot afford to go to places like that. I love layered imagery, and I strive for that. I'll catch reflections, or I'll catch something in the foreground and then something in the background, and then start to seek visual connections. I'm looking for elements of modern world, and then I'm looking for, there's the young girl with the covered head. Okay, so I'm gonna put those elements together.
The American food is nice.
Customers speak English and eat burgers, but they know their limit. Islam and alcohol don't mix. The whiskey bottles hold tea.
But I'm gonna get only her back. There we go. What's so fascinating is how friendly and cooperative everybody's been. I hope it's not really blurry. We'll be lucky if we get this reception the rest of the trip.
Especially where Ed's heading.
I do not know the route, so I've requested him to be.
For the next week or so, we're going to be in the southern Punjab, and frankly, that is probably the most dangerous area we'll have to work in the course of this story.
Punjab has extremes of weather, from the cooler north to the searing south. And the politics can match the climate. Southern Punjab is a hothouse for terrorism.
In a sense, Punjab is like the fulcrum for Pakistan, and that is the heart of what our story is trying to tell. You know, this idea that if the Punjab were to fall to the Taliban, then Pakistan would fall. I mean, this is the hardest part of the story we're about to do, and there's no question there is a risk of kidnapping.
Tradition thrives in Punjab. But tradition can be a hybrid crop. Take the rich landowners, called feudal lords.
I love this guy, because you think of a feudal lord, you think of some like hard-ass who has legions of serfs and mistreats them, and I mean, of course, who knows what he really does when we're not here, but just the sense about him is one of being very genteel and almost effeminate.
Men like him were once almighty, but feudal lords aren't what they used to be. Locals still come to him to settle disputes. But life and death these days aren't his to decide. Live and let live is his creed, and he knows how to live.
He's showing us horse dancing, which is a tradition of the area, and he's a keen lover of horses.
Horse dancing is the trifecta of Punjabi culture, an icon of beauty, a symbol of power, and a sign of sophistication.
It's a great scene, and it says a lot. It talks about wealth and about privilege. I'm always looking for light. Just this backlight, almost sort of a God's light behind him. There's a fine line between a dead situation and something that's actually kind of magical. Now that the landlord, Malik, is in the shade, there's nothing to shoot, really. There was a moment there. There was a moment
I have no idea if this says anything or means anything, but it's always looking for the light.
It does say something. It's a portrait of Punjab. A zest for life. To cover Punjab takes a lot of mileage. Ed spends half his life on the road.
And I am documenting other people, other families, doing things that remind me, you know, it sort of reminds me of how much I'm missing with my own family. The lifestyle that this work has dictated to me and to my family is hardest on my wife. For our whole relationship, I've been gone for half of it. It's not a rule, but it seems to be like a pattern. After 3 weeks in the field, that's when the phone calls and the emails back home start to get rough. Single parenting, I'm gone, she's worried about me. You know, I can tell in those moments that it's like she's had enough.
What's going on? Why are we at a standstill?
I need to get out and I need to sort of flex my muscles, my photographic muscles. Looking for faces, moments, texture. Looking for texture. Already, the crowd is forming and everybody's staring. It makes it so hard to do what I do best and what I love doing, which is candid imagery. It's a crowd. This is no good. That's the challenge in doing photojournalism. You don't have control over the situation, over the light. You don't have control over the aesthetics, and you don't have control over the content. Boom, 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 yes! I'm kind of realizing at this point, I've just not been looking at sort of sense of place pictures. I've been so caught up in kind of the, you know, very intimate, nitty-gritty scenes, and have to remind myself it's time to pull back. I think it's time to move on, because it's never good to stay in one place too long. I was very surprised. Even in the rural areas, you have the Punjabi farmers on their big tractors blasting Punjabi music, you know, on this otherwise totally quiet, empty country road. I'm not saying that's everywhere, but the point is that within the Punjab, you have those elements, more modern, westernized aspects.
But that's not where Ed's going.
We're on our way to Bahulpur. Bahulpur is in the southern Punjab. It's the poorest part of the Punjab, and therefore it's become the breeding ground for jihadis, terrorists, you know, the militants, the Islamic militants we read so much about. There is no way I will ever get the militants, because it's just impossible.
You show the madrasas, the religious schools.
You've got hundreds of thousands of young Pakistani men being trained for jihad and being taught this very austere, intolerant form of Islam. And it goes against the grain of the Punjabi culture and the Punjabi character.
This school is infamous.
We were greeted by an angry-looking guy holding a 9mm pistol, but this is the belly of the beast.
He's invited into the belly to meet the head of the madrasa. Ed travels with John Lancaster, writer for the National Geographic magazine.
So you say you don't send people to jihad, but do you encourage it? They've given us the graciousness with the tea and the biscuits. And the light is amazing coming through the curtain. but I can't take any pictures. He has specifically said, I cannot take any pictures. So I'm sitting there fingering my camera while John has this great 2-hour interview, and I can't take any pictures. I'm not feeling good right now. I feel like we've been led on a wild goose chase. In the field, you're always combating exhaustion and trying to pace yourself because it's a 24/7 job. It isn't like we take weekends off or a Sunday off. You know, you're working 7 days a week every day. Well, we've just had another 7-hour day of driving in the intense heat of southern Punjab. And we've arrived at this Sufi shrine.
Sufis devote their lives to getting closer to God.
What comes with that is a mysticism, a tolerance, a softness, qualities that we do not associate in the West with Pakistan.
Sufism is such an important part of the story. And I'm shooting, I'm trying, I'm looking, I'm pushing myself, It's about 11 o'clock at night. My health is just starting to tank. I am fatigued, I don't feel well. There's not enough light and I can't see any pictures. You know, I'm ready to pack it in.
It's like I know there's something magical to be had here, and I'm just not getting it.
And then I turned around, there's this beautiful shot of a gorgeous wall with these garlands of lights coming down, and there's this lone figure, this woman in a lovely sari, just sort of standing there in this beautiful repose. Ultimately, you need to forget about yourself. You lose yourself. You're working from the subconscious. And that, I think, is when the greatest work happens.
This is Ed's story. The kind of beauty the Taliban would destroy.
Sometimes you can make a point by making an opposite point. You can make an argument by making the counter-argument. So instead of showing extremism, what we'll show is what's at stake if the extremists win. Punjabi spirit is an open spirit, it's a tolerant spirit. This is what's at stake.